On this episode of Living the Dream, Jimmy and Luiza are in the Bahamas and start the trip off with a bonefish right off Middle Cay shore.
Fish on. Oh, it's a monster bonefish too. Woo-hoo-hoo! Guys, look at that thing go. He hit that thing about 15 feet in front of me. Doesn't get any better than that.
They spend the afternoon diving for conch and round the trip off with some competitive fishing.
Sean.
There we go. Coot is coming. Coot is coming. There he goes. Oh, he got it. There we go.
This is Living the Dream with Captain Jimmy Nelson.
Nice one.
Presented by Salt Life. Live salty.
Ooh, good fish. And that's what she was fighting all that time. Man, what a fish. Wow. Doesn't get any better than Baja. Yeah, boy! That's a kingfish right there! Woo! One of the coolest parts about Middle Cay is that you have a beach right there in front of your house, and on the beach, there's bonefish everywhere. Almost every morning we would walk outside and see these bonefish just hanging out on the beach. We got some bonefish right here, right off the edge of Middle Cay. And I mean, so close. We had some conch left over in the refrigerator that we were gonna eat, but I'd rather feed it to a bonefish. And the bonefish were just sitting there swimming along the beach, and you would see one at a time swimming through there, a little tail kind of pop up out of the water and wag around as the fish is kind of rooting through the sand.
An amphibious species, bonefish live in shallow tropical waters and move with the incoming tide to forage in the seagrass on the mudflats. Crabs and shrimp, their preferred diet, often bury themselves on the flats, so the bonefish uses its long, hard nose to dig and spread the sand in hopes of finding prey. Since they are found in shallow waters, fishermen can ditch the boat and wade in among the mangroves for a closer shot at one.
So I followed the bonefish out onto the flat, and I made a cast out in front of him, and something started to pick it up. There he is. Got him. Oh, it's a cuda jumping. It's not what I was looking for, and it's actually one of the worst things that you can catch when you're fishing for bonefish, because bonefish hate cudas, because cudas and sharks are always coming up on the flats trying to eat them. So I'm sure that got the bonefish spooked a little bit. These guys will usually run the bonefish off, but this one's not very big. He's smaller than the bonefish we were just seeing, but they'll come in here and they'll eat the bonefish, the bigger ones. We'll go ahead and send him away. There you go. Goodbye. So I decided to go ahead and change things up and start looking for some crabs since the conch wasn't working. I found one or two little white crabs, and that was the ticket I thought to getting the bonefish. These bonefish here are smart at the house because everybody's fishing for them. I got this crab that just doesn't want to let go of my hand here. I'll hook him up and see if the bonefish will eat that. I'd rather have them about twice that size because these are big bonefish. I mean, these are like 8-10 pounders rolling through here. And then we saw a bonefish swimming through the water at us. So I flipped my crab way out in front of him, I reeled it back and dropped it right off to the side of him to see if he would see it. And then that bonefish went down and grabbed that crab and started crunching on it. So I reeled down and set the hook, and he took off like a light. Fish on. Oh, it's a monster bonefish too. Woo-hoo-hoo! Guys, look at that thing go. Got him. That's what it took. We were trying to get him on the conch, and he didn't want to have anything to do with it. I caught one of those little white crabs, and he is a mile away. He's down there by those buoys now. Holy cow. That's a monster bonefish. Absolute monster. That's about a 10-pounder right there on that little white crab. He hit that thing about 15 feet in front of me. Doesn't get any better than that. Holy cow. Talk about, oh, I thought he came off for a minute. He rubbed the ledge. I thought he just broke my line. He's all the way over on the deep side. He's down in this trench by the boat lift. Just trying to keep my line high to keep him off of anything out there that he can cut me off on. There is a lot of mangroves here and mangrove shoots, but we finally got the right one, guys. Wow, what a hit. And he is just ripping it up in here. Seeing a big single bonefish is almost always a lot harder to catch than a school of bonefish, because when there's a school of them, there's a little bit of competition there. They're gonna fight the other fish for that crab if there's just one crab walking around the flat. All right, here we go, guys. I'm gonna bring them right up here. Let's see if we can get them landed. Look at that thing. Gosh, right here where we're staying at Middle Cay. Guest house is right there, the main house is right there, less than 50 yards away, and you can catch these just absolute monster bonefish right off the beach here. What I got this one on is a crab. It didn't want to have anything to do with the conch, which was surprising, but they're feeding on these little white crabs in here. Found one for bait, caught them, and it worked out. What they're doing in here actually with these crabs in the sand, the crabs will scoot across the sand and they'll dig underneath it. When they dig underneath it, these bonefish get in there and they just start blowing sand and water and stuff in and out right there and pushing those crabs out of there, and they suck them out, right up out of those holes. Just a game fish, of course, no good to eat, but they're a blast to catch on spin and tackle. Well, we haven't even started our day yet. We're supposed to be going out and doing a little diving. We decided to come out here right after breakfast and try to catch one of these things, and it worked. What a great start to the morning. Okay guys, the fish is doing great. He ate that crab like there was no tomorrow, and I'm not gonna keep him out of the water any longer than I need to, so we're gonna go ahead and release him. Just send him right back the way he came from. I'll give you one more look at him before I send him out, actually. Gosh, what a trophy. You want a trophy bonefish, this is the place to get him. And there he goes, swimming away. Look at that.
We'll be back for more Living the Dream right after the break. Living the Dream with Captain Jimmy Nelson is made possible by Salt Life. Live salty. Engel Coolers, the original high-performance cooler. Sea Deck. Your boat deserves Sea Deck. ACR Electronics, the science of survival. And by American Fishing Wire. Nestled in the mangroves and beautiful Bahamian waters, Middle Cay is the perfect private island getaway. Visitors have the island all to themselves, their own pools and private beaches and unforgettable views. For Jimmy and Luiza, the decision is all too easy to make in planning their next vacation destination.
When Luiza and I arrived, we got off the boat and we walked in the house, and it was just beautiful. Us and the camera crew, I mean, we felt like luxury all week long. And they have this little infinity pool that's overlooking the ocean, and it's just gorgeous. We weren't there 3 minutes and we were already in love with the place. The rooms were set up very nicely. They had super comfortable beds, beautiful kitchen, beautiful grounds. I mean, you can't ask for anything better in the Bahamas. A luxury resort island with 2 houses on it that can accommodate up to over 14 people. Some of the other things that you can do in the area besides just fishing and diving, if you like the beach, they do have really nice beaches on North of Luther and on Harbor Island. There's actually some really cool pink sand beaches that Luiza and I visited. These people know how to treat you, they take good care of you, so it's a really nice place to stay. And I would highly recommend checking out Middle Cay next time you plan on coming to the Bahamas.
To book your stay today, visit luxuryislandbahamas.com. Back on the water, Jimmy and Luiza are on the prowl for conch.
When we were going for the conchs, all we were really doing was just driving around and looking for a big grass flat with some conch on it. That's pretty much what you do in the Bahamas when you want to find conch. After we found the conch, Luiza got set up and got ready to go in the water. It didn't take long to start getting a bunch of conch in the boat. There were conch everywhere. Luiza was going down and sometimes grabbing 2 and 3 at a time. And then I went down and grabbed one. And then I went down and grabbed another one. At one point, I had 4 or 5 conchs in my hands all at once. It was a beautiful area. It was probably only between 3 and 5 feet of water, so it wasn't hard to dive at all. The conch were abundant. It was very clear. There was no danger of sharks or anything like that. So it was a really nice afternoon dive.
We'll be back for more Living the Dream right after the break. Living the Dream with Captain Jimmy Nelson is made possible by C&H Lures. Be a winner with C&H Lures. Plantation on Crystal River, the place to stay and play along Florida's nature coast. Cayman Islands Angling Club. Come experience sport fishing in paradise. And by Salt Life. Live salty. Before the break, Jimmy and Luiza searched for a bed of seagrass to dive for conch on, and it wasn't long before they found the gold mine. Here in the Bahamas, diving for conch is considered both recreational and economic. These shellfish are indigenous to the Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean, and are most commonly valued as seafood and fish bait. There's no shortage of them in these waters, which is why they are so celebrated by locals and Caribbean eateries. But despite their healthy numbers, Jimmy tends to leave the smaller conch behind, because much like harvesting anything else, sportsmen uphold the responsibility of preservation above and below waters.
We were just trying to get enough conch for us and the crew and the people over at the house there on Middle Cay. They were kind of hidden in the grass there, but you know, they're easy to find. It's not really difficult to load up on conch. And then Luiza went down and grabbed another one. And after we felt that we've had plenty of conch, we went ahead and put them all in the boat and got ready to head back to Middle Cay and clean them up. We ended up keeping about 12 conch or so, even though we saw so many more than that. We got just enough to make some cracked conch and some conch salad the next day.
The ride back to Middle Cay was short, and all told the bounty looked good. Jimmy and Luiza dove for enough conch to feed themselves, the camera crew, and the staff at Middle Cay, and they even have enough to save some for bait. In anticipation of the good meal to come, night passes quickly, and the next day Jimmy and Luiza are back at it fishing for mutton, another numerous and tasty species of the Bahamas.
So we ran back out between a couple islands where there was a nice cut, and we started chumming the water, hoping to get some mutton snapper. All right guys, so we just finished getting some conch and things, and we cleaned them up. We got a bunch of conch slop here that we're gonna use for chum. We also took these shells and stuffed them full of some of that conch slop. And what we're gonna do is kind of use them like little chum bags that will sit on the bottom. So we just drop this stuff down to the bottom, and it'll sit there, and all that stuff we shoved up in it, the bait fish and the smaller snapper and things are gonna come around and be pecking at that shell, and that's gonna draw in the larger mutton snappers. We basically just keep a chum bag right here by us over the edge of the boat. At the same time, we're taking all this slop and stuff. This is gonna be bait, but we're also using it for chum. So we're just bringing the mutton snapper in, and you know, whatever else we can come up with. So hopefully we'll get something big here. We'll see. We've never fished this area before. It's just a little cut here between Eleuthera and the other island over there. So let's see what we can do. Shortly after we put the chum in the water, there were yellowtails everywhere. Right off the bat, Luiza hooked a nice yellowtail.
Sean.
There we go. Good job.
Woo! All right. Chum definitely works.
Yeah, it does. Oh, look at that.
Uh-huh.
Big pile of weeds and a yellowtail.
Yeah, yellowtail.
Yellowtail with a beard.
There you go. Good size yellowtail,
Oh,
too.
yeah, it is. Oh,
These
man,
are
that's good to eat.
delicious. Woo, take 'em off. That was easy.
Right after she put that yellowtail in the angle, I hooked into a pretty good fish.
There we go. There we go. That might be a little bit better. Nice. It's one of the reasons I like that conch so much. Those little fish will just sit down there and peck away at it, and then the bigger one comes along and nails it. And I think that's what we got is a good mutton snapper right there. Look at him. Wow, nice one. All right, is that a grouper? Oh, we got a shark on him. Got a shark on him. Well, that's a mutton, all right. You got a shark right behind him. Woo, there we go. That's what we were after, guys, right there.
It was so cool to have such a nice mutton snapper in the boat so quick in the little amount of time that we've taken to fish.
The conch worked. That's what that basically, actually no, sorry, this one was on the squid. I'd actually just swapped the conch out because we had a little bit of squid, and it definitely worked. Not a monster, but plenty big enough to eat.
I knew they were down there.
Yeah, they are. Check that out, Luiza. Look at the colors on that.
Wow.
Pretty ones. I like the younger ones too. They just get all lit up. They're a lot prettier than those huge ones. Get this guy on ice to go with your yellowtail. You can have some yellowtail and some mutton snapper.
Yes.
Good fish.
You have to understand, we don't know this area at all. We're not familiar with it. We're just taking guesses, trying to catch the fish. And to be able to put a mutton snapper like that in the boat right off the bat, just by winging it, is not too bad. You know, we were pretty happy about that.
All right, got that hook out. There's another look at that mutton snapper. That's what we were after. It's not easy getting fish out in an area that you don't know very well. But nice thing about the Bahamas is there's an abundance of fish out here, so you can always bump into them somewhere. We got them right here in a little cut where all the boats are passing through.
We'll be back for more Living the Dream right after the break. Before the break, Jimmy and Luiza took what was left over from their conch dive and headed to a break in the islands to fish for mutton and yellowtail.
One of the things that I kept for chum from the day before was all of the conch slop. So I just take that stuff and I shove it down in the conch shells and I drop it down like a chum bag that stays on the bottom. So I'm chumming the bottom and the top at the same time.
Jimmy's tactic proved effective, and in just minutes after dropping the shells and chum, the fish were on.
Fish on.
There we go.
Good size yellowtail,
Oh,
too.
yeah, it is. There we go. It's one of the reasons I like that conch so much. Those little fish will just sit down there and peck away at it, and then the bigger one comes along and nails it.
And then Luiza hooked into another mutton snapper.
Fish on.
Tearing it up on the bottom.
Woo! I love bottom fishing.
Yeah,
Love it.
doing good at it.
Oh, look at that cuda. Look at my fish.
Now that one will make it.
We just had a big barracuda come after my mutton snapper. Another small mutton.
I can't believe how many little mutton snapper Luiza was pulling up.
All right, gonna release this little guy.
Here he
There
goes.
he goes.
That's bigger than I thought. Came up. Oh, just stronger.
Oh, it's a bigger.
The little baby mutton.
A little bigger than mine.
Yeah, lots of little guys. That's what happens when you drop one back in the yellowtail line. Get these guys coming up in it as well.
The fish that we were catching weren't huge, but it was a very consistent bite. A very fun afternoon.
Whoop. And almost let himself go. There he goes, back in the water. That's where we let him go anyway.
And then Luiza caught another yellowtail.
Good fish. Nice,
Land
Luiza.
worked.
You got that one right away, huh? Nice
Yeah.
big fatty too. Yeah, she is. Look at that thing.
Wow, look at this big flag. Wow. Very nice one. And all I was doing is I wasn't using a sinker, I was just drifting my line with the chum. And I got a big yellowtail.
The yellowtail were a really good size too. I was surprised to be catching yellowtail in such shallow water right there on the inside. We weren't even on the outside where the reef is. We're just kind of like inside on the bay area.
Fish on.
Good one. Another
Whoa.
nice one.
Wow, wow. Wow.
There you go.
Oh my gosh.
Cuda's coming, Cuda's
Oh my
coming.
gosh, Cuda.
There he goes. Oh, he got it.
Got him.
He
Oh,
got it. He got it.
got half of my fish. I got text.
Oh, right.
We got competition.
After catching about another half a dozen snapper or so, Luiza hooked into something a little bit bigger. That's a good one. Come on, Barracuda, stay away.
It's a race. It's me against Barracuda. Woo! It's a big fish.
Yep, there it is.
Oh,
Nassau
it's a
grouper. Nice Nassau
wow.
grouper.
Good size one. Beautiful.
There you go. Pretty fish.
So awesome to see all types of grouper here too.
Yeah, it's about as pretty as you get right there. Little baby Nassau grouper. Nice.
Put up a good fight.
Yeah. That was a very nice sized Nassau grouper that Luiza caught. And even though it would have been big enough to keep in the Bahamas, we just didn't think it was big enough on our standards, especially since we had so many fish in the cooler. So we went ahead and let that one go as well.
Gonna go ahead and put him back in the water.
Hopefully he gets down quick.
Nice.
Hopefully he gets down quick. Ah! We lost him anyway. Reef fishing is some of my favorite type of fishing to do because you just never know what you're gonna catch. I mean, we were catching all kinds of stuff. That was also a very pleasant way to spend the afternoon. There's just so many things to do there in Middle Cay, from the lobster to the conch to the mutton snapper fishing to swimming with turtles, just so many different things going on there. And it's been an amazing trip up to this point. Every day has been awesome.
For more fishing and diving action, follow along on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok at Captain Jimmy Nelson. Living the Dream with Captain Jimmy Nelson was brought to you by Salt Life. Live salty.